This is Mac OS Ken.
Stories of supply and supply chains, an interesting lawsuit against Apple, and services stories spanning North America. It's Monday, the 14th of December, 2020. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Headspace. Meditation made simple. Get a free 1-month trial at headspace.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by MacPaw, makers of Clean My Mac X. Your Mac as good as new. Clean My Mac X is all-in-one cleaning and optimizing software for your Mac. Clean My Mac X declutters your Mac and runs maintenance scripts to keep your Mac's performance at its peak. While it does do a lot of things, one of the smartest features it has is Smart Scan. Smart Scan examines your Mac for system log files and user cache that really have no use. Chances are your Mac is holding on to gigabytes and gigabytes of junk that's taking up space and slowing it down. Regular maintenance can be key to a clean machine. Take care of it with the push of a virtual button and Clean My Mac X. I wish I'd known about it years ago. Learn more about Clean My Mac X and download it for free at macpaw.app/macOSKen. That's MACPAW, macpaw.app/macOSKen. That's macpaw.app/macOSKen for Clean My Mac X. And a big thanks to MacPaw for sponsoring today's show. Keeping his finger on the pulse of iPhone demand is JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee. Philip Elmer DeWitt's Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote on Sunday. If your glass half empty, demand for iPhone 12 Pro Max is falling. If your glass half full, demand for the two iPhone 12s at the top is beating the two entry-level 12s. Quoting his note, while the 12 Pro demand continues to hold strong, the lead times for the 12 Pro Max moderated, primarily in China, likely led by the dissipation of demand from early adopters and implying that the 12 Pro will likely be the SKU with the most staying power till next launch. Separately, while lead times for the 12 mini and 12 increased modestly this week, they were well below the lead times for 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. I take it back, there really is no half empty here, unless your name rhymes with Meteor. Nothing in the note faces Chatterjee. He's got an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $150. A bit of a confusing piece from Apple Insider over the weekend. It had TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo trying to allay concerns over happenings in Apple's supply chain. Apparently some are seeing signs of a slowdown in production of TSMC's 5nm chips used to power the recently released iPhones. People prone to worry, Meteors we'll call them, assume the slowdown means a weakening in demand for iPhone 12. Young MC says worry around any 5nm chip production slowdown is on the worrier, not iPhone demand. He argues that people worried about it probably had their expectations set too high. The supposed slowdown has TSMC producing processors at 80% instead of last quarter's 100%. Anybody who expected production to stay at 100% suffered from an overly optimistic, erroneous expectation in his estimation. That said, it is possible that production has slowed unexpectedly, though this again would have nothing to do with iPhone demand. Kuo says Sony, the sole camera supplier for the Pro side of the iPhone 12 line, is having trouble keeping up with camera demand. It's possible that Apple and TSMC have slowed processor production while waiting for Sony to catch up. Now, I did say that this was a bit of a confusing piece. It looks like somebody somewhere along the way, not sure if it was Apple Insider or Ming-Chi Kuo himself, but it looks like somebody was typing 2020 when what they meant to type was 2021. I read it a few times, and there seems to be no way to make it make sense unless we assume typo, which makes it make perfect sense. Bottom line, the piece says TF Securities feels overall demand for iPhones is still better than that for Android smartphones, and demand for iPhones is not yet weakening. iPhone production moves in India seem to have taken a violent turn in recent days. iMore highlights a few reports that have Western workers rioting at a plant in Karnataka over allegations of unpaid wages. According to the piece, video shared by TOI Bengaluru shows loud shouting and employees smashing the glass front of the Western factory. Images also show overturned cars, as well as signs being burned. iMore also cites a report from the Times of India that has sources indicating the violence was triggered by anger over unpaid wages and the lowering of salaries. One engineering graduate was reportedly promised 21,000 rupees per month, but that this had since been reduced to 16,000 rupees, then 12,000 rupees in recent months. According to the report, on Friday night, employees discussing their salaries alleged that many had received as little as 500 rupees for their work, less than $7 US, and that the anger had escalated to violence by the time the night shift had ended. Neither Wistron nor Apple offered comment for the iMore piece. News of a new suit against Apple alleging anti-competitive behavior. Ars Technica says Cydia, the App Store before the App Store, is petitioning the court, arguing that Apple has monopolized the market for iOS app stores, violating antitrust law in the process. And now a short jaunt through history. When Apple launched the iPhone, it had no interest in letting third-party developers put their apps on iPhone. Anyone who wanted to develop for the device was encouraged to consider web apps. That encouragement was not particularly well received. Within a year of iPhone's release, Ars says software developer Jay Freeman created a program called Cydia that made it easy for users to download and install native iPhone apps, an app store before the App Store. Of course, it wasn't long after that Apple introduced its own App Store, and it never really warmed to the idea of anyone else running them for iOS, and has done what it could to shut them down. That brings us to last week, when Cydia filed suit in federal court, saying Apple has wrongfully acquired and maintained monopoly power in the market for iOS app distribution and in the market for iOS app payment processing. The alternative App Store argues that Apple couldn't have gotten away with its 30% commission for as long as it did without its monopolistic practices. According to the piece, Cydia also argues that Apple takes a long time to approve apps and limits direct communications between developers and their users. Again, Cydia argues that more competition would force Apple to up its game. No word in the piece on what happens next in the suit. Xmode is on its way out of the two biggest app stores on the planet. Apple Insider says both Apple and Google have told developers to ditch the location data broker from their apps or see their apps yanked from the App Store and the Google Play Store. According to the piece, Xmode obtains location data from apps on the stores and sells that information to contractors associated with the U.S. military and national security industry. The story originally hit last Wednesday, the 9th of December. At the time, Apple Insider said Google had given developers 1 week to remove the Xmode location trackers, while Apple gave them 2 weeks. Indications in the piece are that about 400 apps will be affected. Some of the developers who use the code in their apps were unaware of the military connections, according to the report. More news in a moment. But first, I am very happy to welcome a new sponsor to macOS Ken. It's Headspace. Meditation made simple. A few weeks back, my counselor suggested I try meditation. I told a friend, and that friend suggested I try Headspace. I didn't listen, and I wish I had. I'm really impressed with what Headspace is doing. When I've tried meditation in the past, it was just 5 minutes of breathing or something. There was no why asked for, nor reason for what I was doing given. Headspace is different, using clinically validated research to ask what you're trying to achieve and help you get there. I mean, it's great for quick hits. There are guided meditations as short as 3 minutes to help you focus, relax, stave off panic. But there's more. The Headspace approach to mindfulness can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. I'll be honest, when there's a lull, I have a bad habit of reaching for my phone and doom-scrolling Twitter. That's my default. I'm going to try to shift that and make Headspace my go-to. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/macOSKen. That's headspace.com/macOSKen for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. This is the best deal offered right now. Head to headspace.com/macOSKen today, and thank you to Headspace for sponsoring today's show. If you're planning a point A to point B in Canada, you'll want to give Apple Maps a look. While it had been rolling out slowly, a piece from my download blog says the redesigned Apple Maps app has officially launched in the Great White North. With the update, they get what we get. That includes electric vehicle routing, Siri natural language guidance, real-time transit information, flyover for select major metros, including Calgary, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and others, indoor maps for airports and malls in Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto, and others, the Share ETA feature, the locations of speed cameras and red light cameras, favorites, with a U for the Canucks, and flight status, which the piece says uses on-device Siri intelligence to scan for information stored in mail, calendar, or wallet, and proactively serves flight information for terminals, gate locations, departure times, as well as flight changes or cancellations for upcoming travel. If you live in or visit the U.S., Apple pays a new way for you to ride the rails. The Mac Observer says the Cupertino company's contactless payment solution is now being accepted on the website and app for Amtrak. I miss taking the train places. I also miss places. From Manitoba to Maine to Mexico we go, where we find a wait for Apple Pay. A couple of weeks ago, Apple updated its Apple Pay for Mexico page, saying that the service was starting there muy pronto. That may not mean what I think it means. Most stories around that update said the launch seemed imminent. A new piece from my download blog says the service won't be launching in Mexico until 2021. Which, okay, starts in a little under 3 weeks. Anyway, that's what Apple's landing page said, that it was coming muy pronto. Where it used to say that, it now says, available in 2021. En Espanol. No word when in 2021 in any language. If you use Apple's Music Memos app, Apple is encouraging you to not so much. It's going away next year. According to a piece from Engadget, Music Memos is the free recording software Apple released in 2016. At the time, the company positioned it as a more robust alternative to voice memos tailored to musicians' needs. Last week, the piece says Apple updated the app to shut it down or begin the shutdown process. Now, according to Engadget, when users update to version 1.0.7 of the app, they get a message suggesting that they export their recordings to voice memos. Music Memos is set to leave the App Store on the 1st of March, 2021. Bad news for an Apple TV Plus production. Variety says a second outbreak of COVID-19 has occurred at the Lionsgate TV-produced Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet in less than 2 months. The show was meant to wrap production on Season 2 last week, though 16 cases of coronavirus were recorded at the show's production facility the week before. Variety got a statement from a Lionsgate spokesperson who said, "Several team members of the Lionsgate-produced television series Mythic Quest have tested positive for COVID-19. They are currently in quarantine and other staff members have been notified. We are following the extensive health and safety protocols we have in place, and production on the series has been suspended since Friday, the 4th of December, when we learned of the positive tests. The health and safety of our Mythic Quest team is our highest priority." No word in the piece on when production is expected to resume. And finally today, word of a second season faring better than the MQ crew. iDownload says Apple has released an official trailer for Season 2 of Dickinson, the highly stylized and fictionalized telling of the life of poet Emily Dickinson. Fame is calling. Will she answer? Asked the trailer's description. The answers begin when Season 2 of Dickinson hits Apple TV Plus Friday, the 8th of January. Between now and then, you can catch the trailer on YouTube. Coming up in a few minutes, Today in iOS host Rob Walsh is with us this week. AirPods Max are news to Rob. What does he think? Is he getting a pair? And what is up with that case? The show is called In a Few Minutes. Look for it, subscribe, and listen wherever you get podcasts. The last full week of live shows for the year fires off later today. macOS Ken Live goes live at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. If you want to catch it as it happens, you'll want to point your browser to youtube.com/KenRay. You can catch replays there as well. youtube.com/KenRay. Or subscribe to the audio show, macOS Ken Live, wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by MacPaw, makers of Clean My Mac X. Learn more about Clean My Mac X and download it for free at macpaw.app/macOSCan. This show is also sponsored by Headspace, meditation made simple. Get a free 1-month trial at headspace.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.